Good morning, everyone. Can you hear me okay? All right. I was a little dubious when I found out that my session was at 8 a.m. on Wednesday, and then found out that the room was all the way at the very end of the convention hall. I thought, wonder what the turnout's going to be like. But this is actually really good, and I appreciate you guys coming this morning. My name's Diane O'Brien. I'm Senior Director for Business Strategy for Windows Azure, and I'm going to talk to you a little bit today about the economics of cloud computing. So the sessions that you might have been attending at Tech Ed so far have probably been more technical in nature. This session is not technical. It's going to talk to you about some of the business considerations about making a shift from more traditional IT deployments to cloud deployments. I do have a couple of partners that will be here with us today that will be talking about specific examples of deployments that they've done over the past few months. And also, we'll go ahead and have plenty of time at the end for questions. All right, sound good? Excellent. So, you know, over the past couple of years, the economy has sort of woken us all up, I would say. And even though in the past, I would say IT has always been asked to be more and more productive, do more with less, I think the point that we're at, it really helps us elevate the conversation that we can have in terms of really becoming a strategic partner to the business and how to help the business be a lot more agile and nimble and being able to make deployments and go to market much more quickly. So I think it's a super opportunity, no matter the types of discussions that you're driving across organizations. You'd be talking with development organizations about how to make developers more productive, getting their stuff done faster so that you can get applications in market. You can talk to procurement. And it now is not just an opportunity to talk about what hardware are we going to deploy, what data center space do we need, and talking about what capital investment the company has to make. But now you can also talk about another alternative of leveraging cloud platforms like Windows Azure to be able to turn and actually do more operating expense and match your demand with the capacity that you need when you need it. So it really allows you to be a lot more responsive and prudent with company resources. It also allows you to have conversations with business units, talking with them about the projects that they have coming up, how it is that they want to be able to go to market, the new applications, and now no longer having a more extended lead time in terms of being able to make deployments, and really being able to be a facilitator in terms of helping them be successful. But it does require a transformation. So in this new world, it's about a services-based business. And now making the business case is a lot more different. You know, when you think about a traditional on-premise deployment, you can size the application. You can say, look, I need about 4 servers for this particular app, a couple of front ends, a couple of back ends. It's really easy to sort of size and cost out the requirements and be able to calculate the return on investment and the total cost of ownership. Things shift now when you're talking about something that is more pay-as-you-go and on demand. And how is it you go about making that business case in this new world? There's also a different way to think about buying. So on the one hand, pay-as-you-go deployments, God, that's such a great sort of thing. People go, I only have to buy what I need when I need it. But it also means that I have to think a little bit more about what I need and when I need it. And then finally, you have to think about the complexity of just deploying and managing the services. And how is it that you can reduce that complexity and ultimately the cost of service management? So a lot of people come to us and they say, you know, help us understand what are some of the workloads that you're seeing in the market today that are particularly optimal for cloud computing. And this isn't to say that these are the only patterns that you should think about for cloud, but these are the ones that are sort of leading indicators, that if this is what you're being asked to plan for, then cloud is really a good option for you. So you can think about on and off workloads. These are much like, you can think about oil and gas exploration, where they might have to do a ton of really high compute required processing. They need to do it for a very short period of time, but they need to spin up a lot of compute capacity all at once. You think that's great. You want to be able to do that very, very quickly. But ultimately, in order to do it very quickly, the rest of the time you have to have a lot of hardware laying around. So it becomes very expensive to be able to support that super high volume computing. You also have situations where you're growing fast. So if you're getting ready to launch a new business, you really don't know what your demand is going to be. But you have to figure out how you're going to keep up with it. Then you have to do your deployments and constantly stay ahead of it. You think about Facebook several years back when they really got popular. Those guys were actually faced with having to focus more on getting new hardware deployed versus really making sure that the application and the service was getting better and better over time. And so I'm sure if they had the opportunity to do cloud-based deployments, they would have loved to have that whole capacity planning piece on the part of the cloud provider versus them having to worry about that. You also have unpredictable bursting. So there's a site by the name of cheeseburger.com. If you ever go out there, they have like a really lot of funny websites. They can post a new site and they can go viral just like that. They don't always know when that's going to happen though. So the cloud allows them to be able to manage that demand in an unpredictable way. But it's even more important to them that they're able to manage that demand when it comes. Because even though in this particular graphic it shows that the normal before the burst and the normal after the burst is the same, the reality is their new normal is actually slightly higher than their old normal. But if they're not able to meet that demand, if people can't get out to the site and see it, then they actually lose business. Their new normal actually could be lower than it would otherwise be if they're not able to meet that. And then finally, I think the thing that we're all very familiar with is predictable bursting. This is when you know that there's particular times of year, particular events that are going to drive a significant amount of demand. So holiday season is a really good example, or tax season. You know it's coming. You may even have a pretty good idea of what the demand is going to be, but the reality is that you're going to have hardware that's sitting around not being used for the rest of the time. And so really what these particular workload patterns all have in common is that in order to meet them in a more traditional on-premise deployment, you have to have a lot of hardware that is at the ready. And when it's not being used, it's not being productive, and it's not helping generate revenue and lowering the return, lowering the total cost of ownership for the company. So the last slide kind of showed you some conceptual examples of workload patterns, but here's some examples of real workload patterns. This one is during holiday shopping time. So we have Walmart, Target, Toys R Us, and Barnes & Noble. And you can see that they end up with 4 times the normal load during the holiday shopping season. So that's over the course of a year. That's over one probably 30-day period that they're having to serve that demand. That's a pretty dramatic peak to valley ratio. And you can think about that's a lot of hardware that is otherwise not being used for the other 11 months of the year. And then during tax season, similar sort of thing, only it's even more extreme. It's 10 times the normal load. So you can begin to see how cloud computing really gives you another tool in your toolkit in terms of helping the organization to decide the best way to be able to support a new deployment. So I'm going to go ahead and invite Dmitry Sotnikov up from Quest Software. Dmitry's going to talk to you guys about how Quest faced a bit of a crossroads about a year ago and about taking a current application that they have and turning it into a software as a service application. Go ahead.
Thank you, Diane. Just let everyone sit. Did you guys have fun last night? Yesterday at the dinner, I couldn't help thinking that cloud computing is actually a lot like being at the bar and actually paying for what you drink instead of just buying the whole restaurant in advance in case you're going to like it.
Now that's a real-world example.
That's a real-world example. Quest Software is not necessarily a drinking company. We are a software development shop, so we produce software to manage IT management, systems management software, mostly for the enterprises. We're probably Microsoft's biggest enterprise ISV partner, we and Citrix. And it's 99.9% of that is traditional software. You buy the software, you get the CD, or you download the setup file, you get the license key, then you figure out how many servers you need to run this thing, and then maybe it needs a SQL database and SQL reporting services, and maybe you need to ship backup somewhere, et cetera, and then you have to patch that whole thing, and so on. So for big guys, for the enterprises, it's totally fine, and because the software still helps them run their IT better, manage the Active Directory, Exchange, SQL, SharePoint better. Smaller shops, small, medium businesses, they might not want to run extra hardware and have someone else yet manage yet another system to get advantage of the infrastructure. So we always found it hard to sell into that small, medium business segment. And about a year ago, we started a project of starting to turn our IT management software into SaaS, effectively, into software as a service for IT professionals. And the project started roughly May last year, and actually today we are launching commercially a couple of first services. One is Active Directory backup and recovery in the cloud, so your backup is being created, encrypted, and shipped automatically to the cloud, and then you can go to the website and find what you want to bring back and undo your changes. And the other one is log management, again, event logs from the servers you want to monitor and audit get sent to the cloud, and then you can go to the website and do your search and find the audit trails and so on. We used Windows Azure for that. And the reason we picked Windows Azure was that, we were not really in the infrastructure business. We didn't want to run an external data center. We didn't really want to invest in certifying it to make it SAS 70 ISO compliant and so on and so forth. And B, the economic model was actually just one of the models which Diane just mentioned. It was really hard for us to predict the demand. That was a completely new business for us. The problems we were going to solve were the same which we are solving in our software, in our regular software. However, the delivery model was different. So we didn't really know how many customers would choose this delivery model rather than traditional on-premises installation. So it was really hard to predict how many servers we actually need, how much storage we actually need. So cloud computing was an excellent choice for us. And we picked Windows Azure specifically because we are a .NET development shop, Visual Studio development shop. So the learning curve for developers was way, way smaller should we have picked another development environment. So this has been a successful project for us. We'll obviously see how successful it is on the market, but from development and deployment perspective, we were quite quick to the market. And we didn't have to overburden our IT initially when we were starting a year ago. Now that we are launching, we actually have interesting internal dynamics inside of Quest, with Quest IT and Quest developers working together on that joint offering, because we have developers coding and deploying the code to that SaaS system for customers, but then they work with Quest